I have to fight frequently, or else I'll start doing dumb shit. Like if I have like more than 2 months, I'm too creative for my own good. I'll start doing jumping, spinning gogopatas if you let me, and I'll find a way to land it. It's the issue is like you can't do it in a fight. Hello everybody, it's Alfred the Maker Jack here. I'm not a Bulls fan, I'm just pretending. I'm here at Feel Good Nations, my /1 recovery zone, closest to my gym and also the best one in the country at the moment. Here with Michael, who's currently making tea/yogurt.
Hey guys. Don't mind me, I'm just having a snack, as you do. Talk to us. Let's go back a little, right? So obviously there was the fight against what's his name at Shuriken. Connor Woodward, that's right. And you made short work of Connor. Highlight reel finish.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful.
Then we got the Kepu fight booked. And let's just talk a little bit about that one, because obviously in the lead up to that, obviously you had an issue, got your nose broken, 2 weeks before?
Yeah, I was in the middle of sparring. I was feeling really good for the Kepu fight leading up to that. I was seeing everything, feeling like I was the best I've been in a while, and even my coaches were saying like we don't see a single hole, we haven't missed anything, and one wrong turn on my side, getting a little bit too cute, and I ate a kick directly to the face and broke my nose. Like, it was pretty bad. When I got it checked, they're like, you've got a few weeks, the bone will kind of heal, but it will kind of still hurt if you get hit. And because I like fighting, I like fighting fairly frequently, I really wanted to keep the fight going. I also really felt like I could win it at the time, and win it pretty handedly. And yeah, I took the risk and didn't pay off that time, but taught me something I was going to have to learn anyway at some point. Just shitty way to learn it.
Yeah, you've got a bit of a reputation when it comes to wanting to fight frequently and fighting often, right? So
yeah. I'll land some amazing shit, and then I'll slowly convince myself this stuff works.
Yeah.
And then also just, I'm one of those people who, if I can get comfortable in any situation, I trust my brain's ability to be able to figure out how to solve it as quickly as possible. And that's the main thing I wanted to get out of now, while I'm still technically young enough to fight as frequently as I can, is getting comfortable to as many of the situations as possible till my brain hits that point where I can walk into a fight and it doesn't feel like a fight. It's just a puzzle to be solved. And I've been solving said puzzles and sparring and training since the first day I walked into a gym. I just want to get to that point. I know I've gone to that point in jiu-jitsu. I've done a lot of jiu-jitsu comps where at first it was nervous, it's your first comp, and then a while you're still being nervous because it's this or that, and then after a while it felt like it was just normal. Regardless of wins, losses, or the way it worked, it just felt normal, and then I just started winning because of it. It's just, and that's what I wanted out of fighting. I took too long early on between fighting, like fighting once a year. It felt like my first fight every single fight. Like every time it was the same exact nerves, same exact worries about, like, not like actual worries, but your brain's trying to do everything it can to convince you to not go into a cage fight.
Yeah.
Like, it knows what's coming, and it's pretty smart about fight or flight, and it's like, I'd rather not do that. It seems, wait, you're gonna go risk us dying when you don't have to? And your goal most of the time as a fighter is to convince your brain, like, no, we'll be fine. And that's what the camp is for, that's what training is for, that's what all that was. To convince your brain, this isn't a life or death scenario, it's a exercise like the one we've done before. I just want to get to that point where my brain has a pretty strong synapse when it comes to like, we're going into that fight thing. That fight thing can go this way, it can go that way. If we do these things, it'll go in a way that won't kill us.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to fight as frequently as that. And I love fighting. I love fighting a lot. It's the most real thing you can ever do, because there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's you, that person in the cage, and the truth comes out regardless. And it always is. It's technique will always wear out. Like, if you're gonna lose, it's gonna be because of technical. Like, I broke my nose against the Kepu fight, and it caused me to not execute my technique. It meant that I rushed when I shouldn't have rushed, because I was like, my nose is a bit off, I don't want it to get hit. I didn't think all these things consciously, but your brain makes those calculations. Like, oh, I remember that this is that fight thing we're doing, but now we have a broken face, and it's hard to breathe, and this guy's hurt right now. And I remember what I did to the last guy I hurt, and that ended in 2 minutes. So just go. Because there's no active thought process in a fight. It's just whatever your brain will execute as quickly as it can based on what it thinks will get it out of the situation as safely as it can get it out of. And in that moment, it decided, hurt guy, flinching, in pain, hurt last guy, do same thing, he go down. And bang, he hit me, and it was just like, it threw me off.
So in that fight, right, like you landed 2 solid kicks, and then it was like, okay, you had him against the cage, and then it looked like you sort of ready to go again, and then he clipped you with the left hook, was it?
Yes. Yeah, I had him up against the cage, and in that moment, I usually am very good about not losing myself in that moment, and being very aware of where I am and what I'm doing. So there's the physical technique of the punch I threw, which he countered, which shouldn't have been thrown. And then there's the theoretical technique of the fight itself, which is someone's backed up against the cage and you stop them from being able to exit left or exit right. They're going to exit through you at some point. And if you stay there, unless you can guess correctly, and at that point it is guessing, you're gonna most likely get caught. And in that moment, that thought process that runs to my head wasn't there. It was so focused on get to him, finish him, because this is a big hyped fight, and if I finish him in the first round, I'll be XYZ, this hype and this ranking. It'll platform me, and then also my nose is broken, so if I can finish him quickly, I won't take much damage. Like, a lot of things that weren't the fight that I was having were pulling into the fight, and that probably comes from not having as long an amateur career as I would have liked, but that I just didn't have enough opponents, because that was a very amateur mistake. You catch someone and then you rush, and then you get caught. It happened to the amateurs, and that's why even after the fight I said to guys, like, don't worry about the win or learn thing. I know where I'm going, and I got caught being an amateur. Like, realistically, I'd been a pro for less than a year at that point by a while. I think I was like only 6 months. He had been a pro for 2-3 years at that point, and even if he hadn't been fighting that frequently, it means he's been sparring 5-minute rounds against pros at a pro pace for pro rounds for 3 years straight. And I made a rookie and amateur mistake, and there might be a few more of those, but I'm a lot smarter about making sure they don't end the fight, as opposed to just maybe like put me in a shitty position. And there was a lot of learning that comes from my losses, and I never let it affect me psychologically, because it is, like I always say, it's just the technique will wear out.
It's always good to sort of reflect on, you've got an unfortunate record with Damien Brown's promotion at Beatdown. Shout out to Damo, but we do appreciate you, and we appreciate the opportunity, the stage that he's providing to the fighters as well. So let's talk a little bit about about that, and I guess will we see you on Beatdown one day again, and to try and turn that frown upside down, so to speak?
Ben doesn't want me to. My head coach doesn't want me to go on that show again. But like, he has no beef with Damien. He likes Damien. He's just like curses. But like, I want to win. I'm the type of person who, like, if I have a losing record somewhere, I want to go in there. Yeah. Like, I want to find, because I just want to find what the thing is. Is it the ring? Is it the fact that the turnbuckles are white, so it's messing with my peripheral? I want to figure out what it is, and win there and prove I won there. Like Eternal was the same thing where I'd lost my fight, I hadn't won on Eternal, and I was like, well, my first interstate fight, I've won in Melbourne, I haven't won in Sydney, but I haven't won in Queensland. I've won in Sydney, I haven't won in Queensland. And when I won that first fight in Eternal, it was like, I want to put my stamp everywhere I fight. Like every time a promoter puts me on a card, even if they're putting me on to lose or if they're putting me on to win, I want to win on each and every one of them, so they all know, and the people who pay for the fights all know, like, oh, that guy can win. He's not just being brought in so he can get beat up by our local person we're cheering. So I also want that for myself. It's everything's a big trial run for the big shows, because in the big shows you're gonna have to fight Saudi Arabia, XYZ, no matter where it is. I want to fight on as many places as I possibly can that can get me a fight. I like with Beatdown, I would like to get a win there at some point. Like, I don't care against who. I don't care if I'm 90 years old and I have to crawl my way into that ring and fight a child. I will get a damn win on Beatdown if it's the last thing I ever do. If you could crawl, we can brawl. And at that point, I'm 90, so I'm probably crawling also.
And then, so Shuriken, obviously you've had a good run at Shuriken. Shout out to Jason Vorster. Great promotion, obviously in New Zealand. You know, probably the biggest promotion in New Zealand. And Jason's also on UFC Fight Pass as well now. So running a really good organisation. You know, maybe speak a little bit about, you know, the organisation and the team about Shuriken.
Yeah, Shuriken was like really, really well organised and really well done. They're right up there with Demolition. He was on top of everything. It was the fight itself and the organization and the presentation was really well done. And even after it as well, I talked to him, and I like also the cage. The cage is really important with where you fight, is what I'm realizing as well. I do well with little cages. I do better grappling in smaller cages than I do striking, apparently. And then those are the things where I'm saying my brain's trying to figure out different paths. That might be something in Beatdown that I have to do more. It's like just wrestle really much, because the cage is small. I don't have to worry about bouncing around as much. But yeah, I do better with striking in big cages, and Shuriken had this like nice, beautiful big cage where I just could move around. Eternal has a nice big cage so I can move around. So my best striking like shows have been on places with enough space for me to move around. And my best wrestling and grappling have been on spaces with smaller ones, like Demolition as well. So yeah, I like Shuriken because it's given me that international experience as well. Every little bit of experience counts, and it makes me better and better. It makes it easier for that eventual big show that's coming.
Yeah, and obviously we have to talk about Eternal, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, Eternal's been pretty good to you.
Yeah. Eternal's been pretty good to me, which is wild, because I thought like I was kind of being thrown to the wolves a little bit after fighting Darcy, because then I got Sam Dobb right afterwards. I was like, I'm 0-1 and he's 3-1. I can't fight going backwards, allegedly, and he just makes you go backwards. Like, that's all he does.
Sam was tough, man. Like,
yeah.
It looked like you were doing like Muay Thai skip knees for conditioning.
Yeah.
Like that is what it looked like.
Yeah, it felt like it too. And after a while, I was just like, I don't know how, because I could feel skull on my knee every single time, and I was just like, why are you taking so much? Why don't you just go down and make us? I remember pitting him up against the fence a little bit, and just in being in my head, or if I said this out loud, like, you know, we can relax, man. We don't need to go so hard. Like, we're gonna be so tired by the second round. It's gonna look like Francis and Derek Lewis if you keep this up. And he's like, yeah, man, I can keep it up. I'm like, okay. I hope I can too. And then I just had to nut up and like keep it up. But Eternal's been really good. Like, it was shocking how good they are. And then the show itself, again, Eternal's been, since I fought on them in the amateurs, just professional. Like, that's the term there. That it didn't feel like I ever needed to call someone to get something else or do this, to do that. It's just like, hey, all you have to do is show up to the fight, show up to the cage. Everything else is taken care of for you. Jumping and fight, and you never really have to worry about too much on the back end. Yeah. It's like a highly professional show. It feels like one step before the UFC, like legitimately.
Talk to us a little bit about, how you felt after the Vendy fight, and the other thing that people may not know about Alfred, he's very active on Reddit, and you got some weird handle. Tell what's your Reddit handle? Mr. Boobs or some shit?
It's Mr. Boobs.
Right? So this guy's got this handle, and I remember like when you were like, oh, this is my I'm having my pro debut. You posted on Reddit. You're basically living your life for the world to see.
Yeah.
And at the same time, when you took the L, you were like, yeah. So I lost my first pro fight. That sucks. What's that mentally like for you?
It's because it's fist fighting for the most part. Like, realistically, we're degenerates. I'm not saving anyone. I didn't lose someone when I was trying to save them and they died. I fought a dude in a cage. I think people overestimate fighting and they just think too much about it. Like, you're jumping in a cage in your underwear fighting in front of a bunch of drunk people. And the best part is I learned that in the amateurs is no one cares. You could be the UFC champion tomorrow. If you walk in an airport with that belt, there's going to be someone who's going to be like, hey, did you win that in a raffle? No joke. That happened in Demolition. I won the belt and I was like, it said MMA title winner here. And some guy's like, oh, that's cool. Did you win that in a raffle? And in that moment, my head went from swell to normal to be like, oh, 90% of the people here don't care. And they won't care. And it's fighting for the most part. It's always the last scenario. When talking doesn't work, you fight someone. So for me, it's there's nothing to hide from, because from the beginning, even on Reddit, I've been saying I'm just a regular. So many people are like, oh, I wouldn't be able to. I'm just a regular person. You don't understand. I spent 3 years in my bed playing video games and fucking watching anime, and then decided to get off the couch and start training. So for the most part, if they see me win, they're like, oh yeah, that guy who's just like us won. And if they see me lose, I don't want to ever build a mystique where I'm fucking. There's a little bit. This isn't a diss. This isn't a diss. It's just a fact. Adesanya kind of had that feeling of oh, it's a guy just like us. Kind of, he watches anime also, and he's fighting and he's doing a thing. And then at some point, it kind of flipped to man, I'm the guy. I am larger than life. I'm and it's just yeah, I don't want to ever have that happen. I always want to let people know I am not superhuman. I will get my ass knocked the fuck out, and I will knock out a lot of people. And that way, when I do talk shit, there isn't the thing I never want to hear from someone when I'm talking shit is oh, you think you're tough shit, huh? That's why you're talking. No, if I'm mostly talking shit, it's because you said something and I feel like shit talking, and I am an internet troll, so I'll take it further. But for the most part, it's never because I think I'm tougher than you. This way, even if you beat me, I'll still keep talking shit. You can't stop me. That's the very thing I don't want. The point where you are trying to sell some shit to people that we're superhuman. No, we're not. We're just the same regular weirdos who decided to get butt naked, basically, and wrestle our friends for 6 months before fighting each other. We're not whatever the hype that people put behind fighters is. Modern day gladiators. Gladiators died, and fought lions very frequently. And they also didn't want to do it. They were slaves. What the fuck? What are we doing here? You're in modern society. You have free healthcare. Relax.
Is there particular fighters that you've got your eye on that you want to try and get matched up with?
I used to scroll through Topology and be like, I want that guy, and all 10. I think before I even turned pro, I was talking about fighting John and Kit Campbell, the guys who are literally number 1 and 2 with 17, 18 fights. Now I kind of don't care. Not in the sense that I don't care about my opponent. I do care about fighting who I want to fight to, and once it's announced, then I'll hype it up as much as possible and let everyone know, because I'm genuinely invested in fighting that person and winning against that person. But between the middleweights being hyper inactive and the fact that I fight everywhere as much as possible, it's kind of hard to just be like, this guy, because that guy might not fight for the next 6 years.
He might have just got injured at a previous fight, right?
Yeah, so now it's just take whoever shows up, whoever's name gets put in front of me, make the decision, and once it's locked in, they're my life and soul for an entire 8 weeks till we fight, and then I erase them like they never existed, regardless of what they did. Yeah, I don't care. You can win, you can beat me, you can lose to me. I don't care. You cease to exist as an opponent past that point. We can be friends, but like, yeah, past that point, I don't care. So yeah, it's another thing where like people get a bit too emotionally attached to some shit. Like, relax. I'm gonna have 40 of these fights. I don't care.
Let's get into the next thing. I want to see Alfred freeze his tits off. Can we see that? Or